Hello, this is the Jeff Hare Show, brought to you tonight by EasternIowaNews.com and DidYouHearThat.com. I think our topic tonight is going to be fighting in hockey. Hockey fights have long been a tradition in hockey. I know last night at the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders game, there was a nasty fight at the end of that game, leading to the ejection of a Cedar Rapids Rough Rider and a 2-minute major penalty for a member of the Chicago team. Hockey has long been a sport that has condoned fighting, especially in the NHL level. I know hockey's also been a very traditional game where it's part of maybe the policing of itself. It's gone back to the beginning of the game, back in the original 6 days when hockey players had a way when they wanted to solve a problem. That's usually how they ended up doing it. Baseball is very similar. Baseball always had the bean balls. That's how baseball solved their problems. Hockey had it too, where if there's a situation went on, they would send a guy out on the ice and he would take care of the situation. With me tonight to discuss our topic is Christoph Trappe. Christoph, good evening.
Good evening, Jeff.
So what do you think? Do you think fighting in hockey should be outlawed or banned or reduced in some way, or do you think it should be left as it is?
I think it's quite okay the way it is. I think there's a place for fighting in hockey. I'm not a big fan of seeing a ton of fights every game, but I think there's definitely a place for it. Last night after Jeff Costello's fight at the Rough Riders game, I talked to actually Jeff and also Jared Beers, and Jared told me, this is an exact quote, "Well, we're starting to stick up for each other and are not going to take anything from the other teams. Like tonight, Chicago was going to take cheap shots and Costello stuck up for our team." So, the Rough Riders were really looking for making a point there with the fight. They weren't just fighting because, hey, we haven't had a fight today.
Well, that's true, and there's no argument there. Now, that has long again been a hockey staple. Back in the old day, in the days of the NHL, I know Marty McSorley would always get on the ice when Wayne Gretzky was out there. When in the NHL, they'd take a superstar out. Stevie Yzerman, my guy for the Detroit Red Wings. We used to have Joey Koster and Bob Probert, who were always on the ice protecting Stevie. It's long been a tradition to protect your team, protect your teammates, and go after that. My point with hockey and the fighting in hockey is I think we run into a situation now where it's not allowed at any level other than the NHL level. It's not allowed in NCAA hockey. It's been legislated out. The Olympic hockey, amateur hockey, for the most part, it's not allowed. And it is allowed in the juniors, in the minors, and all the way up through the NHL. But for the other levels, it is not. When people come out and say, in order for teams to play well, they have to have a tough man, a goon to do all that, I can always point to the Soviet Red Army team of the 70s and 80s that did not have any fighting. And those were incredible hockey teams that played very, very well. Some of the best teams in the world at that point. So I'm not sure that that's a valid argument. My concern is that at some point someone's going to get seriously injured, and in our society it's either legislated or litigated, and someone will litigate, they'll file a lawsuit, and next thing you know, they'll have to put a rule in saying that they can't have it anymore.
You say it's allowed in some levels of hockey. They're all sending these people to the box, they're ejecting people after they're fighting. They let it go on, but it's not allowed. There's a penalty. For hockey, interestingly, some people who don't watch hockey, they tell me this. They say, I can't ever tell why there's a penalty. Somebody held somebody or something. I couldn't see it to save my life, and here's a fight, and there's still 5 men on each side on the ice. For hockey, which is definitely the fourth sport of the major sports in the U.S., that's something to think about. That people who don't get the sport, they're saying, I don't get it. People are being sent off the ice for this. We got a 5-on-3 because one guy held. The other guy, I have no idea what he did, but he did something. And then we had 2 guys fighting, and
that's part of the education of the game, though. Don't you agree?
Sure it is, but people who are just watching it to watch it. But anyway, some people just go to watch the fights, obviously.
And those are the same people that go to NASCAR races to watch a guy take his car into the third turn.
And we don't have many crashes in NASCAR anymore, but that's a topic for another day, I guess.
Right, but that's the whole point. Is that I think we get too much maybe caught up in that. I know one of my favorite restaurants in the world is a place called Hockey Town Cafe in Detroit. It's right across from Tiger Stadium, or I should say Comerica Park. And you can go walk in there and actually put a quarter in the slot of a machine there and watch the top 10 greatest Red Wings fights. And that's one of the highest paying things they have. It's an incredible thing. And I paid the money. I've watched it a few times, and it is kind of fun to see. I'm concerned as time goes on that with the injury level, that someone is going to get seriously hurt. Back in the 20s and the 30s, when the original six played, Gordie Howe was 6 foot, 140 pounds, maybe a little more than that, but I mean, he was not a very big man. Guys now are so much bigger, so much faster, so much quicker, so much stronger. I'm concerned that, and we've seen some very horrific fights, some very situations where people have gotten hurt, and I think it's coming. I think it's inevitable.
You know, here my closing statement on fights in hockey. I think there's a place for them. I don't want to see fights where they're just fighting to be fighting. I think there should be a reason why they're actually fighting. Besides, we're down 5-0. We need something to get us motivated. But I do think it's part of the game, and it has been for many years. And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon that we're going to see fights in hockey. In fact, when I started going to the Rough Riders games, it's kind of funny. I thought this year they hadn't fought, for quite a while. I think when Jeff Costello had a fight a few games ago, that was the first fight they had all year. And at one point I asked a guy, I said, they don't ever fight here? and I think he said, not this year, apparently. So they didn't have any fights. So maybe to me that shows, now they're fighting. I don't know why, but why it's coming up now and not earlier. Maybe there wasn't a point in time where they needed to fight. So it's kind of, they're really underlining my point here that they're fighting when they need to, but they're not just fighting because, hey, their fans want to see 5 fights in the game tonight. So,
well, who knows? It is a interesting topic. It's one that's been discussed a lot by a lot of people, and it will continue to be so. Once again, my name is Jeff Hare. We welcome you to our show. Thank you very much. The Jeff Hare Show is brought to you by EasternIowaNews.com and DidYouHearThat.com. So long.